me ask you this: Are you still cool with talking to the press this year? You're not gonna turn yourself away from the media.
I am the press, Roy.
Oh, that's
what are you
right.
talking about?
Okay. Well, and the reason that I ask is that on your old home front of Cincinnati, one of their bigger stars on the Cincinnati Reds roster has just said, you know what? No moss to the local media this year. And of course, I'm talking about Brandon Phillips, who I know is a guy that you have a little bit of an opinion on. Is that correct?
I do, Roy. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
It's been a long time that we've put Mr. Phillips on the table to talk about, and it goes back to my short tenure with the Reds as a pitching instructor. So it's back. We're talking 2006.
Okay.
The story goes, and this is a story that's coming from a player now. This is just, and I hope it's interesting enough to kind of create a new chapter in the book. But I'm going to hammer him a little bit because it's not cool, and he deserved it, and he was punished for it. And I'm gonna bring the whole story kind of full cycle here. So as a new employee with the Reds this particular year. We had a new general manager, and of course the microscope was on him as well. Okay, and so this is real, actually kind of a common sense thing. Okay, so immediately the new GM starts making trades and starts making moves to put his what they call a blueprint, on these teams, and so one of the first big moves that was made was the Reds acquired Brandon Phillips in a trade, and they received the Cleveland received some minor league players, and nothing real significant, but right away you saw that this guy Brandon Phillips had this huge amount of talent. And so you have two general managers, supposedly they're both trying to improve their clubs by trading players, right? I'm going to get better with this guy, and you're going to get better with the people we're giving you. And so from a player standpoint on this side of the fence, you realize that you look at the clubs, and immediately this guy looks like he's going to be the starting second baseman for the Reds. And you're thinking, well, why wasn't he the second baseman for the Cleveland Indians, who were not very good at this particular time?
Yeah.
And they're looking for help too. And so immediately, a red flag comes up. Something's wrong, because not that many people are going to make the mistake. You see it happen though. You see trades made all the time. It's normal in baseball for a George Foster to get traded to the Cincinnati Reds and win a couple of MVPs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That stuff happens all the time. And the theory is that it's a new look, new landscape. Things will get better, new attitude, stuff like that. And so you want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt when this occurs,
mm-hmm.
because you're looking for both clubs, again, to improve themselves. But still, you wonder why a guy that all of a sudden is a second baseman, and now things are coming out. He's hitting the ball at the ballpark, and he's making these outrageous defensive plays. But at the same time, Roy, and I told you about this, I started watching, because I was watching the games, and I was watching the Major League Club on a daily basis at this time.
Yeah.
Via my MLB package, which no longer exists. And I'm watching these games, and I'm working for the Reds, so I'm not just watching them from a fan standpoint. I'm watching them. I'm evaluating and forming opinions. And I started forming the opinion that I didn't like the way his style of play.
For what particular reason?
In one word that everybody would understand, kind of hot dogging.
Okay.
All right? And I kind of sugarcoating that a little bit.
Yeah.
But basically kind of hot dogging it. And it doesn't take talent to hustle, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I was seeing a combination of things that I don't like, and I particularly don't like as a former Cincinnati Red. I kind of walk around with my chest out a little bit, thinking that I learned the game, the right way, the way it's supposed to be played.
You've talked about
fundamentally
that many times over on this show, correct?
exactly.
Yeah.
You've heard a lot of other people have mentioned, not just me. There's a number of people out there, and so I'm watching this, and all of a sudden I see some plays, and I'm seeing some things happen out there, and I mentioned it to you one day. I believe there was an actual. Remember, a ball was hit to the gap, and hits he thought the ball was out of the ballpark, and
So he's doing the trot.
he was he was doing the Willie in the hand jive and celebrating before he even got to first base, and the ball hits off the wall, comes back hard to right field, and he ends up with a single. That right there was something that I remembered, and then I also recalled a real kind of a show me up type defensive play that he made, where a guy hit a topping bounding ball, 2 big hops, but for whatever reason, he decided that as the ball was coming to him that it wasn't even hit hard enough to even use the glove, and he just reached out and barehanded it and then flipped it over there, and I thought, he's doing that to show up the player.
Yeah.
Basically. That ball wouldn't hit that hard, and I can handle this but you know what, if he drops that ball right there and bobbles that on that bare hand, I thought, well, then something would have happened. And it did happen, because eventually Dusty Baker took him out of a game, during a game, after he didn't run a ball out. And then at that point right there, the fact that Dusty had to remove him from a game, you got to realize that there's some stuff going on. There's some bad chemistry is happening. He starts a fight with the Cardinals. That was that was a pretty good one, huh? And and now it leads up to the off season and the free agent thing, and all the talks about the trades and whatnot. And he was supposed to be going here and going there.
Well, and his gripe with the Cincinnati media is, how can you say I'm in decline when I'm still a producer? I've got 30 homers. I can still knock in 100. So how are you? And because I guess that's some of the assumptions being made by the Cincinnati press. So you're saying that, again, beyond those numbers, you're not completely valuable to the team if you're going at it as an individual, correct?
Exactly right. The guys that are around him on a day-to-day basis, they're not fooled at all by anything. They know what's going on. They see what's going on. And so, yeah, there could be some numbers there. But again, how and when are those numbers accomplished?
Yeah.
And then the fact that the lack of hustle and all this, the showboating stuff and all that stuff, that what that does is what's that? Can I go to the audience or make a phone call?
Sure, absolutely.
About waking up the sleeping dog thing. Yeah, that's what can happen. See, you got a team down and beat over there, and all it takes is just somebody to just do something to trigger something over there in that other dugout, and next thing you know, they got bases loaded and there's a rally going.
Yeah.
And so that's what you don't. That has a negative effect on. You produce 2 runs, but you cause them to put us into, throw a crooked number on us the next inning, So that can happen, see.
Well, and conversely, take us back to the days of the Big Red Machine. With that, let's just talk about the barehanded catch or the not running out of ball hit to the outfield to its fullest potential. How would Sparky have reacted to something like that?
He wouldn't have made it as long as he would have. He would have been taken out of the game long before Dusty took him out.
Yeah.
And he may have been schooled enough prior to him getting entrenched in this, I'll call, pattern of play.
Yeah.
May not have happened because of the intense individuals that would have been around him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody would have. Today, I don't know if a lot of that happens.
Yeah.
Because guys got their headphones on like you, and they're sitting with their backs to the, their heads are buried in the closet.
Well, let me ask you this.
Listening to whatever. So,
yeah, but let me ask you this. In the game of baseball, I know that every sports roster has a different number of people. Like, say, a game like basketball, one guy is put under the microscope much more because you're one of 12, and you can really have that one loose cannon can have a negative influence on your team. In a baseball clubhouse, can one guy like this, especially somebody at that superstar level, can he really derail what the team as a whole is trying to do with that type of individualism?
He could, because all it takes is one game. You could, if you end up losing the division by one game, now you talk about being under a microscope. Everybody's going to look back and go, man, how about that one game that so this happened, and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden there's going to be a bunch of games that are put on the table, and you could see where all of that could, over 162 games or whatever, 150 games that a guy plays, where that could have really parlayed into a couple of 3 or 4 pluses over here on the plus side,
Yeah.
maybe a couple, 2 or 3 games here and there, and you never know, because in a batting order, every time somebody does something and gets on, now it just forces another hitter to come to the plate. See, and people don't realize that in itself, the more hitters that come to at bat, the more things are happening and the more offense you're producing. And so it's about when you do it too.